right, folks. Announcements are complete. We've got one more game of the day coming from the Collins division before we head back into the North American focused WoW division of play. And that game is going to be between our leader in the clubhouse at the break, Eta Karo, seated on your right, against a player that you, Matt Canik, know very well on the left, Geoff Thevenot.
Yeah, Geoff is an absolute beast. He was the director of the Austin Club for several years as I was ascending into expertdom. And although CSW was his main game, he still had such a good grasp of NWL and CSW words. Geoff is a guy who does spelling bees for fun. Won the Austin Adult Spelling Bee a number of times. Just has such prolific word knowledge of all words, 2 through 15. We said maybe only Nigel Richards finds vinicultures, but Geoff Thevenot finds vinicultures. He's a word beast. He's always fun to watch. We'll see if he takes a big W in this tournament.
Yeah, he needs it. You can see in the standings that he's at 14-10. Time has not run out on him yet, but he's going to need to make a run up the standings. That is why he has been paired up with Eta Karo. Usually the pairing systems try to give players that still have a chance at this thing a chance to control their own destiny. And with a big winning streak right here, Geoff could do just that, but he's going to need to win pretty much every game that he can. And it would be a huge one for him to take one down against the top dog right now in the standings in Eta Karo. But Geoff exchanging the queue to start. And Eta looks pretty close to a bingo of his own. Maybe not quite, though, Matt.
No, not quite on this rack is right. And a frustrating position is this for Eta. URN, NURL, LUR are all 3 or 4 letter words he can make. It's probably going to be one of those, though an exchange here also could be appropriate to avoid putting floaters out. A tough opening rack here for Eta. Will, would you play or would you pass here?
It looks like Lure is going to be the play. Man, I don't know. It's tough. I always feel like the decision that I would make in situations like that depends on what side of the bed I get out of. Sometimes I would exchange down to the best leave I can get. Other times I would put a word on the board and reason that after an exchange 5, maybe it looks like we're going to get a challenge on this word potentially, if I'm not mistaken. Or, it looks like a tile flew awry there. Okay, no big deal. Clock stops and should be restarted there. You can see we've moved back to our traditional clock. Try to avoid some of those issues we've had with the players. Usually the digital clock's fine, but should not be an issue as we go back to analog. I guess this isn't really analog. I'm not sure what word I'm searching for, Matt, but not the phone timer. That's what I'm aiming at here.
Yeah, we are a little bit lower tech here, but still some technology being used. Even with technology, I can't solve this turn for Geoff. He has a nice draw. EIIO was actually what he picked up, but the SC blank leave so strong that it will bingo anyway. Geoff's got to figure out what to play here with so many options on the table. His highest scoring play is Eosinic for 70, making LURE and playing down, cashing the C on this triple letter score. That does leave a lot of floaters out in space. Other bingos available like Iconize, ICONISE, also look to be decent options for Geoff. We'll see if he takes points or plays a little bit of defense here.
Iconize at first glance looks pretty nice to me. Just overlapping Lure in a way that if Eta does manage to get a bingo down, it's almost certainly going to give something nice back. I think the best thing that you could say here is try to get through this play without spending an inordinate amount of time. It doesn't feel like this play is likely to decide the game the way that other moves might later on. Get your bingo down. This play is definitely also in the mix as a play that seems decent. A little bit of a sacrifice on the scoreboard, but maybe the nice thing about it that a couple of other options like eosinic, if you imagine, that would place an S out in space, whereas this word manages to place that S on the interior of the board. Often that is going to be the difference between bingoing and not. But actually here, Matt, it's kind of the other way around with this open O.
Yeah, the O gives Eta his only bingo possible, Northers, on this turn. So, you know, sometimes you make a choice in Scrabble and it just doesn't happen to work out. I think actually Niçoise was a really cool play from Geoff. It keeps bingo lines open, and bingo's definitely played to Geoff's strength. He knows so many words. He'd like bingos to be available as often as possible. The other thing Niçoise does nicely is prevent high scoring plays. Eta's going to play here a lot, but he can't stack all the way alongside this word along that C. So that was a cool idea from Geoff to limit opportunities for Eta to hit him back. Just happened to get hit by a bingo here.
Yeah, it's true. It's agonizing sometimes, the difference between plays, and you just can't know. The only thing you could do is just go with general principles, right? Like in general, exposing an S out in open space is worse than exposing an O. And that might have been some of the thinking behind why. Why would Geoff play the particular option that he picked there? And in this particular case, it was the O that gave Eta the bingo, not the S, but the general case still applies. And if you make your decisions accurately with those general principles in mind over and over, the long haul is going to be favorable to you. But those individual game scenarios, when the reverse happens, can be kind of tough to appreciate or to weather emotionally in the moment.
Yeah, and hey, sometimes your decision doesn't work out, but kudos for trying. And Geoff still has a board shaped the way he wants, with a big bingo line available alongside that E. Geoff has a tough turn here, Dinosty. I think we're going to see Geoff play YOD and keep a strong INST combination. YOD would play here for 17 points. He's also got DONNY through that sideways blank. So he could maybe score a little bit more and break up the leave. Geoff's style, though, would probably be YOD in this spot.
It's interesting, though, because you did just note, Matt, that the nice thing about Geoff's bingo is that he makes this spot and potentially gives himself an outlet to get a 7-letter bingo down. If he plays YOD right here, that's still possible to overlap, but it gets a little bit more specific. So I just wonder if maybe he wouldn't be inclined to play something like Donnie here, giving up one more tile from his rack, but maybe he likes the idea of leaving this open still in order to actually have a good place to play his 7-letter bingo. Either way, I definitely think either of those plays are quite normal. And Eta's going to have a weird, people are pointing out some of the nonsensical compound words that he is arranging on his rack, such as bug cart, cat grub. I have no idea what else I guess I have to say because it's been posted in the chat. Butt crag.
Very good.
Enjoy that, everybody. Please don't clip me unnecessarily.
I think a cut brag would be something David Eldar could say after his brilliant play of cut.
Very nice.
Cut Very brag nice. Is my preferred. Catberg, though, that's where I would like to retire to.
Matt is on fire right now. I hesitate to even take the mic away to share any insight with the pearls of punny wisdom. But here comes Yannick, not a play that we identified, giving up both of the two vowels, Matt. A little bit risky, but maybe you get enough points for it to be a relevant consideration here.
Yeah, this is a great way to score out of this rack. DST may go south. What gives me pause about playing both vowels is there aren't really exposed vowels on this board, but Geoff has found 3 more vowels in the bag. He's going to be just fine next turn. Not fine, though, is Eta. Man, the CUG combination is just so bad. I point it out every time someone draws it on stream because their rack is always so bad when they've got it together. And Eta, just a tough turn after his post bingo draw is nasty.
Yeah, it looks like one play stands out as the highest scorer here, and it has been shouted out in the chat, and that is cat gut, which is something that I myself just had in the palm of my hand during the break as my cat Zoe was sitting on my lap. I had a palm full of cat gut. I don't think that's actually what that word means, but we'll roll with it. 33 points leaving BR. That seems solid. Other moves keep a little bit better of a lead. Sorry, of a leave, I should say. But I don't think anything realistic is blocking the self-descriptive wordiest potentially coming down for Geoff on the next turn.
Goodness, wordiest is going to be a killer. But yeah, Eta's got to make some other kind of play. He had so many fun overlaps on this turn. CUBING through the IN, plays off CUBG and scores 19. That's very satisfying. But you know what else is satisfying? Scoring a ton of points right now. Barrick is 29. Nice job. Catgut, though, would be the standout if he saw it, I think.
Yeah, Barrack looks great with that score. Issue is you keep the G and U on your rack together when you would have a chance to play both of them and score even more points. So let's see what Eta can draw after this play. Wordiest for 98 points. Definitely a word that you would love to play in a game of Scrabble, again, as kind of a self-descriptive one on Geoff's part. As we were saying, Matt, a guy that knows more words than 99.9% of the human population.
Yeah, as a wordiest, very self-descriptive play from Geoff. Also his highest scoring play. He did have a 9 last turn, but it was definitely correct to take the double and not sacrifice 20 points to play the 9 there. Have fun with that, chat. I'm sure you'll get it real quick. And look at what Eta's found into his GUT. Another U, another T. You've got to just start working through. I don't think you can justify playing 2 2s here. Tug, I think, for 19 is the right way to split the difference, score some points, and work out of some yucky stuff.
Yeah, definitely a move that you can see Eta made that nearly instantly, and it is absolutely what is called for here. Either that or, well, I guess that seems to be superior to gut in the same spot just by getting one more point by placing the 2-point G in a spot where it's counted twice. But either way, yeah, that's the right play, played quickly, and now looks like subtonic on Eta's mind, but no C open for him to use. He's going to have to come up with something other than that, but a pretty good start. If Eta can get rid of his B and U on the next rack, maybe I'm missing something better. But as Geoff struggles with his Q, Eta might be close to getting back in this game. We'll see.
Yeah, what a tricky turn here for Geoff. Anytime you have the Q on your rack, you're going to look to get rid of it. And there's all I see for Geoff is QATS to this S. That's it. And it still leaves terrible LNOW. So Geoff is probably going to be forced to hold the Q on this turn. Once he realizes that, he's got to figure out how to score some points and set up a good plan for next turn. I'd be looking to play off either LOWS or WONS in this spot. LOWS takes a ton of front hooks, but I love holding the QANT combination together for Trank, for Kanat, for Quant draws. So interesting decision here for Geoff. We'll see if he plays the Q or if he decides to hold on to it, what tiles he chooses to keep it to synergize with.
Yeah, I love that analysis on your part, Matt. It is definitely, you've got a lot of plays right here. If you're not going to play your Q right now, you have your pick of a bunch of different plays in that spot, but without question, for the reasons you described, playing LOWS is slightly better than any other option. If you're going to play in that spot, you want to at least make sure that if you are able to get access to that spot next turn, whatever you pick to play here gives you the ability to play cat next turn. That's not the case for everything that you could play in that spot. For example, if for some reason you played ones in this spot, which is valid, you would not have the cat possibility. beautiful job by Geoff to clearly he's picked up on all of that. He's making our approved play here, Matt.
Wow, yeah. These are the situations where I think the Geoff Thevenot of the past may have struggled, and he nailed this one. Jeff hasn't played a too much Scrabble recently, but it seems like he's in peak form right now. That was good stuff.
Yeah, he's still, we've seen him at least once or twice before on stream. I know we saw him the one time where he put forth a very solid effort. I was very happy with the performance that he had there. A couple really tricky situations. I remember the craziest of which, I think it was against Carl Higbee, when Carl phonied and he had to pass up the beautiful exoneree, knowing that it would give Carl back sequels for 150 points, and he handled the situation extremely well. So back over to Eta, and yeah, he's got the B. The B does hook onto lows that was just played. Is that where Eta is going to look to dump some tiles, or is he going to go somewhere else? Just getting rid of the U and B right here seems decent. Gunning for maybe a 7-letter bingo on this line.
Yeah, this is a challenging turn. I do like the play of Tub from the tee, but it scores so little that I looked for a play on top. He has 2 lines of approach to play on top. One is what he's just done. The other is the 5-letter OUBIT, which would open not 1, but 2 lines here. Eta opting to take the more conservative route, and that T in the second position synergizes very nicely with the S that he's holding. I think this is a cool idea from Eta.
Yeah, this is a very aggressive play. This is a player, Eta Karo, we've seen play a very defensive style for much of his time on the live stream, but this game situation requires him to change course a little bit. So now Geoff has a very obvious play for his Q right here. He should be able to spot this pretty quick. QAT for 38 points. That's great. It does require him to leave this new spot totally untouched. He's probably just going to have to go ahead and live with that, Matt. But man, it never feels good when you have the game in such dominating position. You have to ignore the most pressing threat on the board.
Classic example of when you need to adjust your game to your opponent too. Eta's shown great defense all game. What does it mean when he puts a T right there? It means bad news for you. And so that makes this position tough for Geoff. He'd really like to obstruct the T in spot. He has to feel jittery about it. But QAT is such a strong play for him that I think he's forced to leave it alone here. Geoff may also be thinking about FIQH. AENT is a stellar leave with a bingo line here and a couple there in addition to this one here. Maybe that's the line of approach Geoff is thinking about too, but I feel like this has to be caught. He might also be looking at playing something like Quant and setting up his own eye to crush that spot, but I don't think that pays off enough dividends. He's going to take his time and make sure there's no cool idea here, but I think this is a caught turn.
It is tempting to take that point sacrifice and really go a little bit harder for a bingo. The F worth 4 points for a reason. It's not in as many words, particularly 7 and 8-letter words. That's why it gets that point increase. But yeah, you're getting 15 extra points over Feek playing Cot here. And it looks like Geoff is working his way up to do it and realizing that Cot is fine here. Sorry.
Yeah, Cot is just fine here, Geoff. You're not going to get eviscerated for leaving the triple line open or anything like that. You've got to play Cot.
Wow. Or not. This is a very weird play, Matt, because he's not played the Q, nor has he obstructed the T of bout. This seems like a play whose rationale I'm struggling to put together.
So I think I've got that's a bold strategy cotton analysis there. I don't know what Geoff is thinking. He knocked out his cot and TWO play too. He's got to have a great plan. I'm sure of it. I don't see what it is.
Yeah, maybe just not seeing the T hook. I'm no stranger to that. Famously, recently on stream, I missed the E hook on Viler, which was a play by former world champion Wellington Jigare. I had to just laugh and slap my head after I realized mid-game that had happened. So it's not a guarantee each and every time that you see those tricky hooks. Maybe he thought it was a choice between this and he might not have even seen Feek either. That's a play that's evaded my notice. I admit I'm a little surprised by that, and I think Geoff would be the first to agree that that's probably going to be a missed opportunity, especially if that cue hangs around on the rack any longer than necessary.
Yeah, this is now a tricky situation for Geoff. He doesn't really have anything to eject the Q except once again playing QATS to the T or to the S in wordiest. I think he's going to have to hold on to the Q here, try to cash points with the Z. I think we're going to see him play maybe down here from the T, something like TZAR, but then he's holding the Q for another turn. TREZ, maybe the option from the T instead to keep QAT together. But this is a tough turn for Geoff, and with just one U left in the bag, it's going to be tough for him to do something productive with this Q that he held on to.
Yeah, this could become a textbook case in why players at the tournament level treat the Q with such scorn and hatred, right? The Q, when you have it, is almost always a death sentence for your chance to play a bingo. It needs to be surrounded by incredibly perfect tiles for you to bingo, but it also just takes up space and clogs up your rack in a way that very few other tiles do. And you can just see the influence of it. Although Geoff, to his credit, he does draw a spot that he's going to probably play that ASAP of caddy next turn. But even then, it slowed him down quite a bit. He's going to have scored since drawing it after wordiest 29, 24. He did get a solid 39 points right there. He'll be getting 30 next turn, but notice that none of those scores are in the 50s, 60s, 70 range. These are the plays that put your opponent away. Yeah, let's see if Eta could take advantage of Geoff slowing down just a little bit.
Eta has a really challenging turn here. He immediately noticed that Souvlaki, the beautiful find, was an opportunity, but no floaters on the board will give Eta a bingo. He's going to need to take some time off of his clock and make sure that's the case. T's, S's, D's out in space, and sevens lines on this board as well. But our engine saying no bingos available for Eta. And once he identifies there's no bingos here, he's got another hard decision to make, as no option is good, but all the options are all right. One that jumps out to me is LAV in this spot here. You don't really want to muck up a bingo line, but LAV keeps a combination that still threatens in all of these spots. Valid is another play. That was the one I was coming to next, but Eta not giving me time. That is another way to keep lines open and play through and score some points. Both of these are plays I like. What do you say about that turn, Will?
I'm really thinking a lot about your initial suggestion of Lav and what makes that good. We saw earlier this same principle in action. This eye, not quite as toxic as usual, with only two more to come in the bag. And I just wonder if part of the reason that the engine likes that is the upside, right? Keeping STI something with a K as well. Maybe you hit that T some of the time and completely swing the game back in your favor. And Eta is so close to doing that right now. If not for the J, it feels like he would very often potentially have something in that spot right now, but he did draw the J, and wow, look how fast he spots his top play, Matt.
Yeah, just instant here, and it is so much better than anything else it has. That's time that could be important, but he has so much of it here. We'll see how tight the game stays later on for Eta.
Yeah, it's, really cool to see this play of bout here. It looked like, wow, it's crazy putting the T in the triple lane, but actually it's kind of tough some of the time, at least. It's very difficult to parallel on top here just because of the OUT combination making overlaps kind of difficult, but it must be great from Eta's perspective to see that spot remain open and continue to be something that either represents a lifeline to Eta or a huge cause for concern for Geoff. I just, with that blank in Eta's control, there's only so long that Geoff can go without addressing that spot before eventually Eta could connect on something devastating there.
Yeah, but Geoff doesn't have a good play that addresses the spot this turn. VIVE down from the V invalid is just so much stronger than anything else he has. 30 points out of a terrible rack. Get rid of some of these vowels. Like he's got to make that play. And Eta just a ticking time bomb with that blank on his rack.
There it is, as you suggest. I mean, I like it. What can you do? It scores 30, gets rid of the V, leaves your good bingo tiles. Of course, you do need to draw some consonants for these to balance out. But if you do, you might be getting a bingo down on your next turn. And nope, that's not what we see. And look at this. Eta is going to go ahead. This play looks like it makes a lot of sense to me, Matt. This is definitely the best way to dump the two least useful bingo tiles in the K and X. But man, I'd love to do it somewhere that leaves that spot completely open for me for next turn.
You'd like to leave the spot open, but looking at this unseen pool, you've just got an one I and one U to come and hit the side of that X. So this is not actually that dangerous, but leaving the T alone is something that would have been really appetizing to me there. I would have tried to look a little bit harder, especially with 17 minutes on my clock, to see other cool opportunities that don't knock that out. Something like DEX and blows, BLOWSE, would have been cool as well.
That's a nice thought. Another idea that the engine seems to like, at least from my perspective, is literally just playing VEX, keeping stonk, basically, SONK with this open T. Maybe you can get, some cool forms of, something starting in ST with a K in it going down. Those might be plays that the engine loves to see happen and bumps that play up in the estimation of Vex here. I'm not sure that feels like a very human play to me. It's very difficult to imagine sitting over the board and saying, yeah, that's definitely going to be the play that gives me the best winning chances here. But in any case, I don't really quibble with Kex. It does create a pretty serious threat right here. I wonder if Eta is considering playing unslope or in slope here. Don't think those are valid. I think Geoff is going to know that if he tries it. What do you think, Matt? What would we expect to see from here on out?
Well, I do know that you should never, ever, ever play a phony on Geoff Thevenot. Even in double challenge, they would just never stay on the board. My time playing Geoff in Austin, I think I went 61-1 at the challenge computer. I lost 61 and won 1. So do not phony Geoff Thevenot. Definitely. In slope or unslope would be instantly knocked off by him. He is going to try to block this spot, but he's going to open up another one in doing so. I think Geoff's best option there was to play some defense. AUE right there shuts off a lot. And instead, Geoff is playing a little bit of aggression here, setting up a 7-letter bingo line. Okay. We took the bait on in slope or unslope. He was never going to play it, I think. Envelops the play from Eta.
Yeah, looks like a great idea. I think the thing that I really like about this option, it's the only 8-letter word from this E. The thing about it is that Eta knows he's going to still be down after this play. The score, which should update momentarily, 360 to 349. This spot had similarly powerful bingos for Eta, but this one being the harder one to hit, he uses it now, and he knows after Geoff's next play that Eta is still going to be trailing by 11 plus whatever Geoff scores. So leaving the easier sevens line open to hit next turn makes a ton of sense to me to actually really practically come back in this game, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. You know you're still going to be trailing. You're going to be down by 11 and your opponent's on turn. You are not in the driver's seat. It's going to come down to a lucky post bingo draw for you. So keep the line open. And we see if these post bingo draws were flipped, Etta's in great shape, but Geoff has drawn another bingo out of the bag, threatens the 7-letter methane and MA in the spot that Geoff just opened up. He is now going to play a game clinching bingo. So how does that work out? Matt says play defense. Geoff says no, sir. Geoff draws another bingo and wins this game.
I think it's another example of what we saw earlier in the game with the Niçoise positioning of, I agree with you that perhaps the more defensive option of AUE in this spot would have been nice. This is an interjection, no hooks, doesn't create a sevens lane, definitely feels warranted with a lead, but sometimes you'll benefit from taking a different tack in the precise situation that occurs in the game. That's what's happening here. I guess it is a little bit like you can see Geoff is doing his bookkeeping here, trying to figure out, what could Eta have? How many tiles are left? Maybe that's part of it. There are actually 9 tiles in the bag. Potentially what Geoff is doing is making absolutely sure that by his bookkeeping, there are more than 7 tiles in the bag. That would give him the freedom to play methane and not worry that Eta would potentially catch him with another counter bingo and threaten Geoff's ability to win the game. Once we see that complete on Geoff's part, I definitely expect there is very little chance of Geoff missing this bingo, Matt.
I feel like Geoff saw it a while ago. There was a moment where he paused and then reached into the bag, and I think that was Geoff just making sure. Okay, there's more than 7, right? There's 9. Okay, let me make sure I've got all my tracking right. It seems like he's retracking everything now. But yeah, Geoff shouldn't miss methane. Geoff should find methane and win this game. I'm almost certain. I'd be very shocked if he doesn't find it. He's so good at the words.
Yeah, once that bookkeeping completes, I would agree. I'd be surprised not to see this go down. Practically speaking, again, Eta's tiles are so poor that I'm sure that even a play like Meh in this spot on top of envelops would give Geoff a great chance here. But yeah, a player of Geoff's caliber, very, very likely to spot this. He hasn't alphabetized it yet. So, okay, here it comes. Placing those letters in alphabetical order. This is the point that I would probably say, oh, yeah, I have a bingo. I put it in alphabetical order. This looks really familiar to me. What is the word? Oh, yes, it's methane. But maybe he has a different process.
Maybe he does. Or maybe he's found meh.
Oof. Okay. So this gives Eta Karo a little bit of extra life here. I'm surprised by this. I think this is in part, Matt, because of the time situation, feeling rushed, not wanting to get into an end game with no time on your clock. And it is a little bit of a miss for Geoff. No sugarcoating it. Let's see how devastating it turns out to be. Or is Geoff still going to sneak away with a win here?
I think he's in good shape, but I think more than anything, this is just rust from Geoff. He's not played a lot of tournaments recently. Peak Geoff Thevenot 100% finds methane and slams the door on this. Just a little bit of rust showing, but wow, that is a tough draw. AENT picking up AEE. I think that Eta's post bingo draw was so poor that this is still not a game, but Geoff is doing his best to make it interesting here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what is on the table here for Eta to try to snatch this game away from the jaws of defeat. It's really tough. He's down by enough on the scoreboard that he really is pretty much needing to bingo or bust here. So the question is, because this is the part of the board that is so obviously best suited for bingos, is Eta going to feel obligated to do something in this area to create a second threat? I was imagining, what if you do something crazy like play Gadabout? This doesn't look like a very smart play, but just something that creates a threat to worry about. In fact, I would hate to do that because you wouldn't actually retain a hook that plays on top of here. But maybe, ooh, very nice, Matt. Talk a little bit about this play that you spotted.
Hail Mary is what we call this play in football. This is the equivalent of it in Scrabble. Adoring allows you to just pray that your APO leave gives you something nice. If spread doesn't matter to you, I think that's the way, or perhaps OARING. But yeah, make some new space on the board and just hope you get extremely lucky is probably what you do here if you're Eta.
O-ring is really cool because your leave is a little bit more balanced. If Eta were to play that O-ring right here, I think I might even like that better because you're using an A, a G, and an O. Your leave is at its most balanced. And if you manage to draw this R, you're really this leave becomes pretty good. If you draw something like ER out of the bag, all of a sudden you're looking at very real possibilities of playing a huge bingo hooking roaring there. So I actually really like that as a crazy option. You're going to have to do something a little wild here if you're Eta, and that is going to catch Geoff in a bind if that is a play that he spots.
The extra fun part about O-ring is Geoff is probably going to infer the R is on your rack a lot when he doesn't have it, and he's going to poop in his pants trying to block that one. And so there are some fun plays. This is my favorite part of Scrabble, is taking these games where you've just been massacred by the tile bag and trying to find ways to make your 0% into a 5 or 10%. Eta's got some decent ways to do that, but they are rather reckless. We'll see if he takes the conservative play and preserves his massive spread in this tournament, or if he takes a gamble here. But there are Hail Marys to be thrown out for Eta.
It is interesting to think about how necessary is it to open the top of the board just because of the geometry of these two lanes, right? Like if you were to draw something here starting in A, that would play in both of these two spots, it's actually not the easiest to block. You would need a 6 tile. If Geoff has a bingo, he can block it. But if he doesn't, pretty much the only way to reach all the way over is a 6 tile play that extends all the way here. And even then, you're still seeding a bingo in this lane, right? So if you play something down here, there's still a bingo here. There's still bingos to the S if you play down here. So maybe Eta can just not worry about opening and hope that enough of the board will stay open even after the blockiest play that Geoff can muster here. I don't know, Matt. I trust your positional instinct better than mine on this.
One of the things that makes me feel really dead if I'm Eta in this situation is the pool is just terrible. More likely than not, I'm just going to draw vowels, and if I draw vowels after either one of these plays, I'm just going to lose the game. So I have to pray that Geoff's got a lot of vowels, but this feels very long shot-y to me. I don't even know if I would pull the trigger on Adoring or O-ring. They just feel so likely to get punished and so unlikely to work.
Yeah, it could be true. I mean, I think certainly you're right that the unseen ratio is so heavily weighted to vowels. But as we actually can see, 5 of the vowels are on Geoff's rack and only 2 of the consonants. So the bag of 5 that we're looking at, which again, this is not fair to do, we can see everything and the players cannot. But the actual bag is A, G, M, R, Y, which is pretty consonant heavy, in fact. I guess the really rough thing is that all of the E's are on Geoff's rack. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a grim scenario. But even if you're in Eta's shoes, you kind of have to I'm not winning this game if I make a play and draw 3 vowels anyway. So I have to assume that it's a consonant heavy bag. Geoff is saddled with vowels, and let's go from there and see if we can figure out a way.
Yeah, you just have to assume that everything's going to go right for you in the rest of this game. You have to assume that Geoff has the worst case scenario. Geoff might just have a bingo right now. Geoff might have metering or something, and you just lose. He might have migrant on his rack. He might have a ton of different stuff. But you have to think Geoff must have something bad, and then it's something good has to go right for me. This is a really, really tough turn. But Etta had 17 minutes on his clock. He gets to maximize this opportunity. I think that's some of the importance of keeping some time on your clock for these big late game situations.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'm just, I wonder if, I mean, it seems like he has this word spelled out on his rack. So maybe he's thinking about playing something like Opa here. The thing that's kind of cool about that is it gives him an option, at least. If he were to draw a bingo starting with G, this would be a lane where it plays. Of course, Geoff might decide to block it on that basis, but maybe that is part of the thinking. You can't start a bingo with a G right now. Certainly I would want to use the G, but you can't. There's only so many tiles you can use here and keep the game alive. So it's pretty brutal. And that is going to be what he plays. I feel like this is about as good of a play as anything else we've spotted, short of the really aggressive openings like O-ring, which I still kind of feel partial to here.
Yeah, it's a tough turn, but you've got to just roll the dice on something here. This seems like a reasonable approach. He's going to need a great draw, but we know most of the consonants are in the bag. A great draw might just happen. Let's see what he pulls here while Geoff thinks about his big turn. It's another G, an I, and an M. Not what he was looking for.
Yeah, I don't even know, with the contents of the bag being as they were. What could he even have drawn given the contents? What were they? Something like AGMRY. It was going to be really tough for him to manage to pull something out. So yeah, tough situation. I think from Geoff's perspective, what does he have to worry about? Probably Agamoid or something like that, playing in 2 spots, which seems extremely difficult. Oh, look at Eta. He's basically decided if I get a chance, I'm going to try to fish for that A. That's going to complete my ability to play this bingo in 2 spots. But Geoff is going to take this out now. Note that this is not an 100% win for Geoff, Matt. He could definitely lose the game after this. He's probably sweating a little bit right now.
Etta, he see the frustration on his face. Really, he emptied the bag. Etta, I think, was expecting Geoff to not empty, to play 1 or 2 tiles there. And Geoff says, you know what? This board's way too open. You're too smart and can think of other ways to open it. I am emptying the bag right now. If you just drew a bingo, you win, and otherwise you lose. And Etta did not draw the bingo. Etta will lose this game.
There are definitely instances. Yeah, Agatoid potentially as well was possible for him to draw. Well, maybe not after that. But yeah, Agamoid is the relevant one. You could see Etta wishing that G was one of the A's that are on Geoff's rack. But yeah, there are definitely times when not emptying the bag is very, very wise. In fact, I would say usually Scrabble players are trying to avoid emptying in situations, late game situations. However, there are other times, maybe like this, where you really want to make sure that you don't give your opponent another chance to fish or play something in a way that will give them another lane elsewhere on the board. So sometimes you just got to go for it. I think this actually was a pretty good instance of that in Geoff's case. Play it now. You tip your cap if Etta draws something, but you deny him that chance to groom his tiles one more time.
Yeah, we'll get the score updated. It
Oh,
looks a little
sorry.
bit precarious for Geoff, but we got to give him those extra points, and
Yeah, my bad.
that just about does it for this one. Geoff with the final tiles, AAERY. Yeah, he's going to hang on and win this one.
Yeah, no real scoring threats on this board for Eta. It's going to be basically just a get out in two. Geoff has the Y, which is going to help him score a bit. Couple decent spots to play the Y here. Bogey, you could just plop your Y down right there. There's a spot here. So Geoff's going to find an easy score on his next turn and a pretty nice game for him to win here, although not without a blemish or two that I'm sure Geoff so hard on himself earlier on the stream. He was really hard on himself for a sequence that I thought he played extremely well. In this situation, methane is going to be a tough one, and certainly the foin turn was a head scratcher for us, Matt.
Yeah, Geoff is someone who can be so brilliant, but he is definitely his own toughest critic. You see him talking to himself, kind of shaking his head. When Geoff stays out of his own head, he's untouchable. But he sometimes notices one thing and then feels like he doesn't deserve to win a game. But Geoff played well. He knows a lot of words. Deserved to win this one after the big double in Wordiest.
Yeah, and it's a big win for him. Eta is going to take a bit of a setback here, but he is in first place right now, pending Joel Wapnick's game. Both players entering this round at 17-7. Incredible performance, both by Eta Karo and Joel Wapnick in such a difficult field. Joel is playing Jesse Day right now. There's no rest for anybody at any point in the standings in an event like this. But if Joel is able to beat Jesse in this round, he is going to take over sole position of first place. An incredible achievement by the 78-year-old former world champion.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is still wide open. Geoff has done the world a favor in winning this game by making this World Cup even tighter. It looked like Eta and Joel may run away with this, each up a game and a half coming into this. But no, this field is very tight with 6 games to go. There are several players who could win, including Wellington Jagere. He's right in the thick of things yet again.
Color me shocked at that news. Wellington's right there.
Brilliant. You see all these games, tough beats, tough losses, but it always seems to be the very, very best and brightest who end up rising to the top at the end of it.
So Eta, as is not surprising, he's got a very, very good tiebreaker right now, and he's going to continue to fight and try to make sure that he's holding on to as many of those points as he possibly can. Looks like he might be considering playing MiG, which goes down right here, and the computer engine does indeed suggest that that would be his best endgame sequence here. Not sure exactly. Looks like it's just a good way to ensure that he has a second play to play like Oda or something in a couple different spots. Surprising that of all things would be the best end game, but that's kind of a referendum on how tight this board is, Matt.
Yeah, it's a tight end game. Just go out into MIGG is actually his best sequence. It feels unbelievable that with a bunch of tiles that score points, that's all you can do. But that's all he can do. Noble effort from him, kept kicking until the very end, but the tile bag never on his side this game. Great job from Eta, though, keeping his odds alive and a different draw on the last turn. Maybe he'd steal this game away. I want to talk just a little bit more about Geoff since we've got him on stream. Geoff is one of my favorite Scrabble stories ever. He lived in Oklahoma City, and a tornado came through, leveled his apartment, and just uprooted his life entirely. He moved down to Austin, Texas because his brother lived there, started playing at our club, and with a lot of strife going on in his life, he turned to Scrabble, studied a ton of words, and within about a year and a half, nearly won the U.S. Scrabble Open, that year's national championship in Phoenix. That was back in 2006. Just a really cool story about a guy who had something terrible happen and made something beautiful out of it. Found Scrabble, studied words, moved to Austin, nearly won a championship, directed our club for 10 years, and then fell in love with the Scrabble woman, and the rest is history. And they're happily together up in the Chicago area now. Geoff and Melissa, both fantastic people.
Yeah, every single interaction I've had with Geoff has been incredibly positive. He's just like a wonderful guy. And the fact that he was in the finals and nearly won the national championship of Scrabble so soon after becoming a tournament player is absolutely astounding. It's something you just do not see happen pretty much ever. It speaks to his natural ability for sure. I actually remember looking back at some of his games as this game finishes up, with Geoff winning 439, I should say, to 404. Maybe we're actually getting table talk from Eta this time, or I think they're just verifying the scores or something. But anyway, I wanted to shout out Geoff for playing things like Sacraria. I remember seeing him play this insane bingo in the finals of that championship year, as if he had been a many decades long player when really it had just been like a year or two. All right, maybe they're talking about the game. Let's
go. Diorama, yeah. Agamoid. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I will just come Agamoid. Yeah. Let's see. I kept AE when I did that. It's okay. Yeah. Good game. And first.
Is that all the debrief that we get?
Can we rock? Or you don't take photo?
No.
I want to use the restroom.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Actually, can I do the submission first? Or unless you're in a hurry. I'm just going to do the submit.
All right, I think that's going to do it for their debrief. So maybe we'll throw it back to us. Etta clearly saying that he saw Agamoid there, but yeah. Anyway, I'm not the one that knows Geoff the best. That's definitely you, Matt, having played him countless times in the Texas area.
Yeah, Geoff, just an all-time awesome dude. I'm happy to see him still having success over the Scrabble board all these years after his 2006 hot run, an improbable run to the North American finals. Geoff, also a musician. He's extremely talented. He plays the everything. He can pick up and play the everything and accompany you however you want. Awesome musician. He releases his own work under the name Trembles of Fortune. I put that on often during my workday. It's a really cool vibe, very late 70s, early 80s feel to it. Just a dude of many, many different talents, and coasting to a victory here on board one, making this World Cup super interesting is Geoff. I think, Will, we're going to do a little break and then cut over to WoW Lexicon for the last three.
That's right. And in the WoW Lexicon, things are heating up just as they are in the Collins division. It is Rafi Stern pacing the field. The result of his previous game is not in yet, but he was 2 games up from his next closest challenger, that being the 2-time defending World Cup champion, Jackson Smiley. So accordingly, we will be shifting over to that division, showing you a matchup between the top performing player, Rafi Stern, and challenger Joey Kravchik, who is very likely needing to run the table to make things interesting. So don't go anywhere. We're going to pick back up with the WoW division, Rafi and Joey, round 26, coming right up.